Okay, any discussion, any changes? Okay, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Like, I don't know if we have anyone from the public here, but if there's anyone that wants to comment, I guess now would be the time for them to do that. Is there anyone looking to make any comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move right into the business of the meeting. The first item being the Transportation Improvement Program amendments. Mike, I don't know if you're ready to jump in here or.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. Sure. This is a DOT amendment, so I think Bob Rice or Greg, are you going to speak about the amendment?
Yeah, Mike, I think Greg is. I don't know if he's got on yet. He was having trouble with the call.
He's on. He's on.
Oh, I'm on. Hey, yeah, Bob. So yeah, I can speak to this. This is a combined sort of two issues at once. There's a wrong-way driving initiative to sign and put additional pavement markings on limited access highway ramps to hopefully reduce the amount of wrong-way driving incidences that occur, as they're not very many. They're severe when they happen. The consequences are pretty severe. So it's an initiative to reduce that, the frequency of that occurrence. And on the top of that, the low clearance, there's a low clearance bridge initiative to address 20 locations of a bridge over a state highway with, again, additional signage and possibly pavement markings to warn trucks of a low bridge. And since both initiatives require signs and pavement markings, we are combining them into one regional set-aside. It's all funded by main office, so it doesn't impact the fiscal constraint of this table. We're going to address about 250 locations for the wrong-way driving, and like I said, about 20 low bridges that are below the minimum clearance. So if there's any questions on that, feel free to let us know.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the amendment?
So moved, Sean Colony.
Okay, and second, Brad. Okay. Any other questions or further discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Now we're on to the final New Visions 2050 approval.
This item is the final approval for our long-range regional transportation plan. It's taken several months, about a year and a half, to get to this point. We want to just say thank you to all the people and all the input and all the effort that everyone has made in this regard. Jen Saponis, who has been the project manager, program manager for this, has a short presentation to give the members regarding the final draft. Jen?
Sure. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So today we're asking the policy board to adopt the final New Visions plan. As you know, we released the draft New Visions plan to public comment in March, and shortly after, New York State on pause was implemented, and we had to shift our public participation plan, cancel all of our in-person meetings and events, and switch to a mostly virtual public involvement plan. So we wanted to provide a variety of opportunities and strategies for people to engage with the plan. So we did enhance the New Visions 2050 webpage with a number of online surveys. We had a custom-built funding poll. We had meeting in a box materials. We did lots of social media, but we also developed flyers and some other techniques like a virtual voicemail box that you could send text messages to in order to reach people who may not be online and engaging with us in that way. And then we had a series of virtual public workshops throughout the month of July. So these are just some examples of some of the things we created. The web page, our flyer, which went out to some bike rescues and some nonprofits that were doing food deliveries in the area. We also did some social media, asking people to take photos of you know, how they were interacting with the transportation system, and of course our funding poll. So in the virtual public involvement workshop series, we had live polling so that people could provide feedback throughout the presentations. We asked people what they liked living about, what they liked about living in the capital region, and then of course, what does quality region mean to them? There was a lot of themes that repeated, you know, walkability, livability, proximity to nature, and of course, other major destinations in the region, affordability. These accessibility were all important. And as you can see, we also polled people to see to what extent they supported the major policy themes in New Visions, and there was a lot of support for the themes. For some of them, we had 100% support from participants. Of course, the funding poll results definitely showed a mix of funding priorities. And then we did receive some comments. We received comments from DOT, members of the public, other local governments. All of these comments and a summary of the feedback we received can be found in a summary report on the New Visions webpage. So what's next? We do see New Visions as a living document. We plan to do some updates as we monitor the impacts and recovery from COVID-19. We have some planning initiatives in the UPWP that will become, you know, adopted as part of the long-range plan. In the past, these have been efforts like the Freight Plan or the Capital District Trails Plan. We're going to continue to do public engagement and education related to New Visions topics. We can schedule a town board, city council, planning or zoning board presentation to start doing training and talk to local governments about what role they can play in implementing New Visions. And we're also launching a learning series where each month we'll focus on a topic in New Visions, and we encourage you to participate. Of course, we implement New Visions through all of our planning initiatives and tasks in the UPWP, and of course, the TIP, the capital investments, and all linkage studies and other CDTC sponsored planning tasks. We anticipate the next big update in 2025, but like we said, this is a living document, and we do plan on doing some updates. For example, the resiliency chapter in the environment and technology white paper, and probably some updates to transit and potentially other topic areas. So anticipation of the final New Visions plan being adopted, we've created a web page where the public and our members can go to learn about New Visions, and they can download each chapter, read the summary report, and then as you can see on the right-hand side where the arrow is pointing, local governments can request training, which would just be a virtual presentation at this point, and then we'll list our webinars as we schedule them and line up speakers. So if you have any questions, you can let us know, but if not, that's it for me.
Thanks, Jen. Are there any questions? And I can't see everybody, so if you have a question, just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask it. Okay, there being none, Mike, I believe I have in my packet a resolution adopting the plan. You're muted, Mike.
Thanks. Yes, there is a resolution. We do need approval for this item.
So can I get a motion? Okay. Carm, can I get a second? Steve? Last time to ask any questions. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. You have a new plan.
Great.
So for the next action that we need to take, we have the final transportation air quality conformity determination approval. Is someone presenting on that, Mike?
Yes. And whenever we update our TIP, our long-range plan, we're required to update our air conformity analysis, and that's really how the projects on the TIP impact future air quality in our area. It's a very technical exercise. It does involve a lot of modeling. We have I think we have a summary from Chris Bauer. Chris, you're on there.
Yeah, you can hear me, Mike?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so as part of the adoption, as Mike said, of the new long-range transportation plan, we're also required to update the official title is the Albany Schenectady Troy 1997 8-hour ozone non-attainment area transportation air quality conformity determination, which was available online, and I believe you have a copy of that too. It's a document that we developed cooperatively with the DOT's Environmental Science Bureau, who in turn they consult with the ICG, which is the Interagency Consultation Group. And they are the group that determines whether or not our document is conforming. And just a little bit of background, even though we're in attainment of the 2008 air quality standard, as a result of the 2018 South Coast Air Quality Management District versus EPA ruling, we're now required to document attainment for the less stringent 1997 air quality standard. So, the logical conclusion is that if you were in attainment of the 2008 standard, clearly you would be in attainment of the 1997 standard as it's less stringent. When we update the air quality conformity determination for the long-range plan as a matter of good practice, we also reaffirm conformity of our TIP. And likewise, when we do the TIP, we'll do new visions again. We had an open comment period as well as DOT during June and July. And so today what we're asking as part of the new visions resolution, we're asking the policy board to endorse the air quality conformity document. That's all I have. Any questions?
Okay, thanks. So we need a motion to approve the determination. Brad, second? Harm? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we move on to the congestion management process approval. And Mike, are we going to have a presentation on this? I know we got a very lengthy document, so.
Yes, we thought we'd give a short presentation on this because you really haven't seen this document probably since March. So there hasn't been any changes, but it is an important document for the region. It is something that FHWA and FTA spends a lot of time to review and make sure we meet all the requirements. So we have a short presentation, and Andrew, you have can you share your screen or?
Yes, let me give it a shot.
Our transportation engineer Andrew Tracy is going to give a short presentation.
I need to be made a presenter.
Yeah, Chris Bauer, can you make Andrew the host, please?
Chris, are you still online?
Oh, it says I'm the host now. So
Yes.
All right, you're it. Share your screen.
just a moment. Okay, Mike, can you see the slides here?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Like Mike said, my name is Andrew Tracy, transportation engineer here at CDTC, here to present the region's congestion management process. This is being updated in parallel with New Visions 2050. So what is a congestion management process? All MPOs with more than 200,000 individuals are required by the Federal Highway to maintain a congestion management process. So our CMP is designed to be systematic. We examine all major roadways in the region. It's a very regional approach. We take a broad screening process to examine all the major roadways, and it's also intended to be very performance driven. We've developed a number of performance measures that we can use to quantify the performance of individual corridors that we use for congestion screening and for identifying appropriate congestion management strategies for those corridors. So our key performance measure is travel reliability. It's very important that drivers have an expectation that their trip will take a certain length of time, and that non-recurring delays are kept to a minimum, as they can be very disruptive. Our congestion management process has been reworked to follow Federal Highway's recommended 8-step process, which is pictured here. The first step, develop regional objectives. We borrow our regional objectives from New Visions 2050, and we make sure that the congestion management process is consistent with New Visions. These objectives include things like travel reliability, but also safety, which is very important. We then conduct a broad region-wide screening on our Cmp network, which includes all major regional roadways, using a variety of data sources, and I'll show you a couple of them soon. We identify problem locations and identify strategies to address congestion at those locations. Importantly, this is meant to be a cycle, so we need to monitor and we need to follow up on past congestion management projects to evaluate their effectiveness, to see what worked, what didn't work, and what's worth doing in the future, and what we need to go back to the drawing board with. So it's a cyclical process. Pictured here is our CMP network, which includes all of the region's expressways, interstates, arterials, secondary, alternate routes to those expressways, and all of the bus rapid transit corridors as well. It's worth noting that our congestion screening tools take a very broad look at congestion across the region, and they cover even more roadways than are what are pictured here, although these roadways highlighted on the map are generally the most congested. Pictured here is the main screening tool that we use for measuring travel time reliability on the region's roadways. This is the AVAIL tool developed by University of Albany for use by the whole state. And the data source for this tool is the NPM RDS, the National Performance Management Research Data Set. This data is provided by the feds for our use for congestion screening. They've purchased data sets that look at individual road segments and report average travel time on those road segments 24 hours a day for the entire year. That data is collected anonymously from smartphone apps and also from GPS-enabled vehicles, fleet vehicles, delivery vehicles, things of that nature. All of this data is aggregated under contract with Federal Highway, and it's anonymized and made available for us for congestion screening purposes. So the Avail tool developed by the University at Albany under contract of DOT has been made available to us. It's very powerful, extremely useful. Pictured here is travel time reliability on many of the roadways in the region for the year of 2019. And the links highlighted in red are those with more unreliable travel, more congestion that occurs. In addition to using that tool to do region-wide screening, we can use that same tool to drill down and take a look at individual roadways that are experiencing congestion, and we can quantify that congestion, the reliability of the travel, by creating charts like this. These charts show each day of the year and the travel time on, in this example, the Northway from exit 1 to exit 9. So the green bars show when the Northway is flowing at its typical travel speed, and the orange and the red bars indicate days when travel time was much longer than usual, much longer than drivers expect, and this can be very disruptive. The chart on the top shows the northbound traffic in the PM period, which is the direction most commuters are traveling in the PM. And you can see there are far more spikes in the northbound direction than there are in the southbound direction, which is on the bottom half of the slide. Much of this congestion is due to non-recurring events such as crashes or special event traffic or severe weather, storms, things of that nature. So to help us quantify travel time reliability, one of the performance measures that we compute is peak hour excessive delay. Peak hour generally is the PM peak hour, 5 to 6 p.m. And we can compute this measure for each roadway segment on our CMP network. And pictured here, roadways with the wider red lines are roadway segments that have more peak hour excessive delay. So if you take a look, I'm sure you can recognize a few roadways that you might drive on every day. Peak hour excessive delay is defined as the time spent by all the drivers on the roadway when they're stuck in heavy congestion, which for our purposes is defined as when you're traveling at less than 60% of what the posted speed limit is, which is pretty heavy congestion. Finally, our congestion management process identifies a number of congestion management strategies that we can use to address congestion, either at the regional level or on individual roadways and corridors. The Capital Region Transportation Management Center in Latham is staffed by NISTOT and by a number of first responder agencies. And the Transportation Management Center can coordinate responses to crashes, severe weather events, other special events that can lead to traffic congestion and to safety issues as well. So funding this is a high priority for our CMP. CDTC also has a travel demand management program. Travel demand management refers to strategies such as carpools, van pools, promoting transit, promoting bicycle and pedestrian modes, car share programs, bike share programs, things of that nature, things that help shift travelers from single occupancy vehicle to alternate modes. CDTC is also very interested in deploying traffic signal technology and other intersection improvements. This is a great strategy to use on signalized arterial roadways. Congestion very often occurs at bottlenecked traffic signals, and installing smarter signal technology and better vehicle sensing technology can help to address that kind of congestion. CDTC has also undertaken a number of arterial management and land use planning initiatives in the past. And we'd also like to place emphasis on funding for operations, operations improvements such as traffic signal upgrades that I mentioned, ITS improvements, intelligent transportation systems improvements, incident management systems. These sort of operational improvements are often far more cost effective than large capital projects such as highway widenings. So it's really the first thing we should take a look at before we resort to far more costly capital programs. So that was just my quick overview of our congestion management process. If you're interested, there's far more detail in the operations white paper on the CMP. I believe that was my final slide. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to speak. And if anybody has any questions, anything at all, I'll be happy to help, or you can reach out to me at any time at CDTC.
Thank you. Okay, Mike, is there anything else that you wanted to add to this? And
Mike, I believe you might be muted.
I did.
There you go.
I keep muting it because of my air conditioner, which is really loud. So whatever. Okay, yeah. The only thing I like to add is that, you know, all these documents obviously take a lot of work from staff and from our members. Just want to recognize, you know, all the staff work, New York State DOT for all their help and their assistance in these documents, and of course all the members. And that's all I have, Kath.
great, thanks. So can I have a motion to approve the management process approval?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks.
Second.
Got a second? Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Yes, thank you very much. So now we are on to CDTA, who is giving us a safety plan presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I don't know how much of a presentation. We're going to try to keep it brief. This is a relatively new requirement of the federal government, the Federal Transit Administration. And what's new about it is they have updated the requirements of organizations like CDTA in the area of safety. And if I could encapsulate it in one word, it's culture. They're extremely concerned about the culture in the organization and that the culture be safety driven. I would like to think that we always were, but the plan puts into place things that help to measure. I know culture is tough to measure, but it helps us to measure how effective our safety program is, both in terms of accidents, preventable accidents, employee issues, and sort of the non-hard stuff, like how many safety committee meetings have there been throughout the year, where have they been held, what kind of input have we received from employees, and what have we done with that input. It's been about a year or two in the making. Rich Cordero, who is the author of the plan for our organization, is on the call. And I asked Rich to maybe elaborate on a couple of the things that I just mentioned. So Rich, are you here?
I am, thank you.
Great, if you could give us a few minutes on the plan.
Absolutely. So the plan basically has 6 points, and when we talk about culture, it was a tone from the top approach. Under the FTA, they wanted to just have an organized document in place and a requirement that set up performance targets that basically met the standards under the National Transportation Database reporting. And it also, we implemented a position that reported directly to our CEO for safety, anything pertaining to safety. The other 4 points that needed to be met was we just had to show that we had a safety management plan in place, that it was a message to the employees through a safety policy. It also wanted a risk mitigation process that just said, hey, whenever you're going to implement something new, here's a process that needed to be followed to basically give consistency in the organization when it came to safety. And a process also to follow up with that, safety assurance, to say, hey, is what we're doing working? The SMS was submitted and it covers all parts of that process. And then it also requires that we have a promotion and a line of communication to do so with safety. I believe Carm, echoing what Carm said, a lot of these measures, we were lucky we were already doing it, and we were pretty much ahead when it came to the reporting structure. As for approval, we recently submitted it to the board. The board reviewed it and approved the plan. It has been also filed through the DOT and the Public Transportation Safety Board, and we are now bringing the performance targets for CDTC's review. If there's any follow-up questions or anything I could do to assist, please feel free to let me know.
So in a nutshell, there's a series of approvals that we need. One of them obviously is the regional MPO. This has been vetted. I should also mention this has been vetted at the planning committee, CDTC planning committee, and I believe a thumbs up was had there.
Okay, great. And we did all get a copy of this. It's agenda item 8. So can I have a motion to approve the plan? Approve. Second. Thank you. Mike's going to have to rewatch this to catch all these. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you now. We've got, I think we're up to item 9 here, section 5310, enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities program.
Yeah, yes, thank you very much, Kathy. So the next item on the agenda is the 5310 program. The program manager for this program is Carrie Ward, and she'll just give a summary of the results of the solicitation. This does not need approval, but it is for your information. Carrie, would you go on, please?
Sure. So this is just an informational item, but at the August meeting, the planning committee did add 7 new projects under the 5310 program to the tip. These are the same projects that were approved, that you all approved at the June meeting. So it was just finalizing that process. That's all I had on that.
Oh, okay. Very good. Any questions about the 5310 program? Okay. That, without any questions there, we will go on to item Roman numeral 10, and just quickly, the status of solicitations. So the first solicitation, they have the technical assistance program. The status of all the projects within that program are found in the last page of the packet in the table with status of linkage studies. Just so you know that we are still accepting applications for that program. If anyone is interested in the Tech Assist program, you can find the information in the packet and on our website. Item B, Complete Streets Workshops. We have selected 2 municipalities, the Village of Ballston Spa and the County of Schenectady, to do Complete Streets workshops. One is a basic Complete Streets training for Ballston Spa, and a regional Complete Streets training for Schenectady County. Item C, ADA transition plans. Saratoga, the city of Saratoga Springs and the town of Glenville were selected for your assistance, and we'll be working with them to develop their ADA transition plans. Next page, the last item in that category is Smart Cities Studies. Right now, that is the only solicitation that we have out right now. That's ongoing. The applications for Smart Cities Studies are due on October 2nd. If you're interested, there's information in the packet. If you'd like more information, you can contact Jen Saponis of our staff. And that's all we have about our solicitations.
Okay, great. So now we're on to status of planning activities. Mike, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I would just quickly give members a sense of what we're doing here. So our trail feasibility studies, the applications came in. We received 5 applications. We're reviewing the evaluations now, and we should have the results for the trail feasibility studies out soon. The local bridge study, we received 4 applications for the consultant. Those are being evaluated, and we should be able to seek or confirm the consultant for that study soon also. New York 7 freight and land use study. Right now, the town of Princetown and Rotterdam are reviewing the scope of that study. That's a freight and truck study near exit 25A of the Thruway. Hoosick Hillside linkage study. We have a virtual public meeting that we taped, and that will be on the website as of Monday. Our CDTA, our cooperative study with CDTA on the bus lane study is undergoing scoping right now. That is a really, I think, a pretty exciting study, something new and different for our region to see where we can improve, where we have the opportunities to improve transit and improve transit by including bus lanes. And the last thing that I would talk about is the City of Albany Bike Master Plan update. That's going well. It's one of our linkage studies. If you're interested, there'll be 2 demonstration projects for that coming up as part of the project. One on Brevidor, and I think the other one's on Morton, demonstration projects. But that's what we're doing right now, and just give the committee a sense of what staff's doing. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thanks. CDRPC.
Hi, I think we have Craig Warner on the line. Oh, there's Craig.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, as the Northern Border Regional Commission liaison, CRDPC, was pleased to help connect the City of Troy to the program and congratulate them on securing a $1 million grant for the redevelopment of Monument Square. We're also preparing a $200,000 sub-grant program to support economic development organizations working on economic recovery. Details are coming over soon also. We're also planning to, to award funding through NYSERDA's Clean Energy Communities program. We have all helped communities qualify for more than $2.5 million in cost savings of clean energy upgrades. And also stay tuned for our fall local government training webinar series. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. We always like to hear when you're giving out money, so it's good to hear.
We give out plenty of it too, so I wish I could give more.
So now, CARM, CDTA, this has been such a quiet time, nothing happening, no impact from COVID. You've just probably been, kicking back and relaxing.
Absolutely nothing. It's been a rough go. Like all of you, we're struggling. Had our 7th employee positive yesterday. Unfortunately, it's the way things go. So you have 725 employees, 7 positive. I guess we're right in line. A couple of things though, just for the policy board to note. After almost 5 or 6 months without collecting fares, which for us is about a $10 million shortfall, we turned the fare boxes back on a couple of weeks ago. That was tied closely to the installation of protective barriers plexiglass barriers that separate the bus operator and customers, and it's in the best interest of both parties. But we couldn't turn the fare box on and open the front door. We had been closed door boarding, rear door boarding only. Couldn't do that until all those things aligned. This while ridership had increased from about 25,000 boardings a day to almost 40,000 boardings a day. We normally at this time of year are around 50. So we went to the depths of lowness and are recovering to almost where we would be at this time normally. This is all being complicated now by the return to school. Our social distancing procedures and practices call for no more than 20 to 25 people on board a bus at any one time. That's assuming that everyone's wearing a mask, which is a whole nother issue. So the return to school is now making this kind of dicey. You may have noticed that colleges are returning in various formats. Some are here with the majority of classes being remote, but they're here. So if they're here, they're traveling, and we have contractual relationships with every college and university in the area. So that really hasn't hit yet to the point where I can report on how much of a surge we're seeing in ridership, but we're going to see a surge. So that's the COVID update. You know, that's all balanced, as my good friend Mayor Sheehan knows, balanced by budget and what is available financially. At the same time, we're getting ready to unveil our second BRT line along the Hudson River between Albany and Troy, and then eventually up to Cohoes and Waterford. That is a long route. The buses for that route are actually being delivered as we speak, and the stations, which are distinctive blue and silver stations and markings that you will see along Route 32 and then into Troy and up Route 4, are about 2/3 installed. So that will go sometime in early November. As Mike said, we're very pleased to be looking at bus only lane. Well, it won't be bus only. Exclusive lanes, so buses, emergency vehicles, things of that nature. Right now, our bus rapid transit lines share the right-of-way with all traffic, which yields nice results, but not great results. If we could find a way in the region to start to move towards exclusive bus lanes, and I know real estate is limited, but we think there are areas for that. We're in the middle of a building extension, our garage in Troy, $5 million extension, planning for a $12 million extension to our Albany building. So in the midst of trouble and turmoil, lots of progress. So thanks for bearing with me. If anyone has either COVID suggestions or COVID war stories, glad to swap them.
Thanks, Carm. Tough times, but you guys are getting through it. So,
yep.
DOT.
Great, thanks, Mayor. Bob Rice here. At first, Pat Barnes sends his apologies for not being available today at a family situation to deal with. In terms of DOT, both the capital and program development keeps moving on, and our construction operations staff are still at 100%. A lot of logistics plannings and thought going into a first sort of COVID era snow and ice program and how to make the operations side work in the wintertime. The office staff, about 25% are still reporting on any given day at Wolf Road, with 75% continue to work remotely. DOT is still involved in a lot of COVID operations, supporting test facilities around the state, as well as the distribution of test kits and PPE equipment around the state. Some of the bigger projects, the I-90 over Fuller and over Erie Boulevard, the deck work has started. The Northway paving between exits 11 and 13 was awarded, and that should get started at any time. Our multi-site paving work continues. The Troy Manans Bridge, Route 378, our first area PEL, the Planning Environmental Linkage planning study that has been advertised, and we're seeing a good number of questions related to it. So the healthy consultant interest in that study, and with the mayor and the city of Albany, along with Federal Highway, a very collaborative effort. We have advertised the Skyway pedestrian linear park. The bridge has been advertised. So the last element I want to bring up, there's been an emphasis. We have a number of locally administered projects that the construction has been completed, yet the books aren't necessarily closed in which the project has been closed out. So certainly in tougher budget times, we'll be reaching out to some sponsors that have not closed out their project, and in an effort to recoup money and at least close the book on those projects. So unless there's questions, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. And thanks for all the cooperation on the Skyway. It's exciting to finally have that out to bid. So good.
Yes, it is.
Thruway.
Good afternoon. Right now we are full-fledged into our conversion to all electronic tolling. There still is a goal by the end of 2020. It's progressing right along. Most all of our gantries are up in the Albany area, in the Capital District area. Some work is starting to begin out in the Rotterdam, Duanesburg, exit 25 area to deal with long tandems. There's some additional work at exit 24 for long tandem access through the edge of the current northbound D ramp coming into the I-90-87 Northway interchange. That seems to be progressing fairly well. We should everything should be in place by our go live date. Unfortunately, at this time, I don't have an official go live date. We're still kind of up in the air trying to get everything into position. Outside of that, nothing else going on of major impact on the thruway at this time.
Great. My 20-year-old asked me whether those, the new gantries that are up are going to be used to clock people's speed, to which I said, of course they are. So we don't need to tell them anything different.
That works.
So I'm sorry, let's see. Now we're going to the Airport Authority.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Mayor Sheehan. Pleased to report that we're seeing a slight increase in air cargo, but the passengers remain at about 1,000 passengers per day, where 4,500 would be the norm per day this time of year in the summer. Projections are perhaps looking to about 1 million, where we usually see 1.5 million departing passengers, maybe 2 million total passengers, where 3 million is the normal total for the calendar year 2020. There are active construction projects continuing now that we've completed the state-supported access improvements, great garage out our window, state emblems, the gateway signage noted and appreciated by all. So our projects ongoing are $3.5 million in new passenger boarding bridges awarded last week. $750,000 master plan. Cliff Harbor Associates is advancing that. Staff are reporting daily. Some of our concessions, including but not limited to Chick-fil-A, are seeing an increase in takeout business. Let's see, what else can I report? Happy to answer any questions, but we're on staff every day, continuing our construction capital program and supporting very low fare and lowering fare. We see a lot of specials with $39 and $49 flights advertised, but with the varying between 32 and 35 states of mandatory quarantine, it definitely has been a damper on travel demand. We're continuing the capital program, and with vaccines on the horizon, at least early 21, we'll look forward to everyone's restored demand for travel. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions? No?
Okay, thank you.
And now we're at the Port District. There you are, Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor. Last but not least, so the port is continuing to, in a good way, weather the pandemic. Just looking at my charts from last week, we're just over last year's to-date numbers on longshoremen women hours. Vessel calls are actually up 25%. And it's not that we can't explain it, it's just that our commodities that we're handling, which are primarily the last couple of years, wood pulp, paper products, and a lot of scrap steel exports are still through the roof, primarily because Mohawk paper and a couple of our throughputs have been used for a lot of the devices through PPEs and just what people need at Home Depots and the grocery stores. I'm hearing that the third quarter is probably going to catch up to us a little bit. Most ports of our size, we're hearing, are down 75, 80%. The port of New York, New Jersey is, I think, around $1 billion that they're down right now. So compared to other ports, we are, we're doing quite well. Our offshore wind potential and business development is really going through the roof right now. People on staff are in weekly, if not daily, calls with Belgium, Germany, Norway, and all over the United States. We're not putting all of our eggs in one basket, but this is a full on push that if we can land these businesses, it's going to be just a big deal for hopefully the entire area, and more businesses coming into the port and the region, and how many jobs this can create in Albany, Rensselaer, and throughout the area. Our only real downside right now is on the heavy lift industry. GE is just kind of, they're down, and that's been a big deal for us the last few years. So that's where I think our longshore person hours are going to be down probably next quarter. One small but good piece of news is that we're holding on to a whole bunch of train cars that are due through Springfield that are starting here, that'll end up being part of a renewed push for the MTA in Boston. And those finally left the terminal this morning. So they're going to be going out in the next couple of weeks. They've been taking up a lot of space. Unfortunately for us, they are built in China. And about 9 months ago, when that whole wall went up, we had to kind of hold on to them and weather that storm. But now they're moving out, and that actually will help us with hours and work in the terminal. And let's see, last thing on my list I talked about, we had just awarded the construction contract for a new 60,000-foot warehouse inside the Maritime terminal, which is the first new building there in probably 30 years. That foundation is complete, and I think the building will be up by November, December, we hope, and that will enable us to take on more wood pulp and other products, because we're kind of busting at the seams in the buildings right now, and that should be good for us for next year and moving forward. So hope everybody else is well, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And, you know, I do want to take this opportunity to stress to all of you as leaders across the region how critically game-changing the port's wind project could be. You know, this is on order of magnitude with, you know, what we saw with Global Foundries from the standpoint of job creation and spin-off jobs. And, you know, we know that, you know, anytime we talk about expansion, and I know that there have been some very, you know, spirited meetings with the town of Bethlehem, but this is a huge opportunity for our region to become part of the green economy, to create really good paying, low barrier to entry jobs. And, you know, the firms that the port is talking to are looking in other places. And so, you know, from the standpoint of letters to the editors to stories in the newspapers, you know, the more positive that we can be about how welcome this would be here, I think the better. So to the extent that you think that there are any, you know, sort of, you know, constituencies out there that need to be engaged and maybe need to know more so that they have a better understanding of what we're talking about, please reach out to the port and to Patrick, because they have some really great presentations. And this is going to go far beyond helping, you know, Albany and the town of Bethlehem. These are jobs that are really going to be available to people throughout the region. And so it's a really exciting opportunity. And I know I'm doing all that I can to sort of reach out to our environmental justice folks and get them involved right now, early on, to build support for this.
Thank you very much for that, Mayor, and we certainly appreciate all that you've done, your support on moving this forward.
Right. Linkage local planning activities. Mike, I think you touched on these. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, we've touched on them all. Thank you.
Great. Well, we have in our agenda the upcoming meetings. Are there any other issues that anybody wanted to bring up? Hearing none, I will move to adjourn. I see a second, I think, from Linda.
Yep.
All right. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kathy.